people supporting this project. Here, any teacher, any principal, any director would have been very happy. A successful project. 8 TV channels, 40 newspapers, articles, etc., etc. But what the girls did that from a pedagogical point of view was even better, and that's where the opportunities come in. Okay, now you have this success, what do you do with it? So what they said is that we don't have so much money, but we can rent a car, a van, and we fill it with so much canvas that is possible. And we drive it up to Norway, and we ask the 10 most interesting industrial designers to produce art and products out of it. We called the National Gallery in Oslo and asked, can they do an exhibition of it? We asked Norwegian TV to film it all, and we do an auction of these, the products that they do. Collect the money, and we bring it back, and we create a foundation that bought access to the house the year afterwards. It breaks your heart. When we work, when we assess student projects, and also when we work with clients, it's always about the win-win-win. It's not enough that I win and the student win, the society must win as well. So you can't go to an exam at the Chaos Palace if you can't argue what the society get out of your project. We had a visitor called Johan Galtung. He was a Norwegian peace scientist. And he provided us with a model that is quite interesting, where you have this axis of A and B, and you said you have, traditionally you have 3, 4 different positions. You have a situation where no one wins, neither A or B. Or you can have a situation where A wins and B loses, or vice versa. Or, as in politics, mostly you end up with a compromise. But he says there are examples of where you can transcend the compromise and figure out a solution where everyone wins. And he gave some examples, for instance, on how African tribes that fought over access to water and land and forest had been able to figure out a different business model on how to use the scarce resource instead of fighting over it. Instead of just dividing the forest, they turned it into a national park, for instance. One of our students have worked with the Maasais in Kenya about similar projects. It's quite fascinating. It's difficult, but it's doable. The normal way we work is with our students and with our products is to always start with the dream. Even if we don't really know what we're going to do, we try to focus on the dreams. What would we like to achieve? What would we like to see happen? Then focus on the design and the delivery. But there is a continuous process in this one, and that is the discovery. And it's your ability to describe your own discoveries. And you also have to make a lot of decisions along the way. Another thing when it comes to projects that we think is important is that you can have a lot of unique products. We have seen many unique inventions from Chaos Palace. The problem is that they haven't been relevant. We have had a lot of relevant stuff going on, but it's not unique. It's very difficult to tell a young student that, well, you have done something really good. The problem is that there are thousands of better solutions than the one that you have done. So in a way, you need to create this understanding that it needs to be both relevant and unique, or else no one wants to support it. This is a book that was produced last year. It came out in the shops in September. It was a travel guide to social innovation. It was done by the students that went to Shanghai. Normally people go to Shanghai to earn a lot of money. We went there to figure out what happens with the money that are being created. What was interesting with the students that they came up with this book was that they turned their own not knowing into a tool for people that will walk through the same process. They had no clue what social innovation was. They didn't know so much about China. So through that discovery, they said, okay, how can we produce the most value for others for that? Well, it's basically to provide them with a travel guide. The road less traveled to Shanghai, maybe. I think that I will stop here. I would just some final remarks on this one. we heard, I read somewhere a long time, I can't remember who the author is, but there was a NASA report about creativity. Have you ever heard of that? It's quite an interest. I think it was done in the mid-70s. And it actually worked to about, the idea was to figure out how creatively does people encounter problems. And the researcher, he started out with a 2-year-old, and he figured out that 2-year-olds were to 100% creative when they encountered a problem. Well, that is not exactly brain science, because they never encountered these problems before, so they will be 100% creatively when doing so. But the interesting is what happens when they become older. So already when they were up about to 6 years old, they're down to 60-70%. By the time they're close to enter high school, they're down to 40. And then when they're graduated from university, they're down to 2%. So what do we learn from that story? Well, one thing that we have learned for sure is that the qualities that we today need in our companies and we need in our societies is not exactly promoted through higher education. So what we at least need to do is to try to rethink, not necessarily how to make people more creatively, but allowing them to continue to be as creatively as they used to be. When people, some of our students, when they enter the chaos pilots, or when they hear about the chaos pilots, they always say that, well, we need a little bit of a chaos. Well, true, maybe some do. But chaos pilots is not necessarily about chaos, it's actually about structures. It is about providing adequate structures, because chaos and change come no matter what you do. That will happen. And it's sometimes that same question we can ask from a system perspective point of view, right? We talk about change. We need change. Change for this and change for that. We just need to change, basically. But an alternative perception of that would be, what do we need to preserve? And to focus on that one and said, let the other thing take care of itself, because it will. If you figure out what we want to preserve in our systems or in our designs, then maybe the change will come by itself. That was it.